seriously, don't get trapped in my
your
head. Yeah, I wouldn't wish that on nobody.
You should address the camera, because right now there's a lot of people probably
stay out of my head.
Now the shit's about to kick off. This party looks whack. Let's take it back to straight hip-hop and start it from scratch.
In 2000, Eminem released the Marshall Mathers LP, an album that not only shattered sales records, but also cemented his place in hip-hop history. 13 years later, on November 5th, 2013, he unveiled its sequel, the Marshall Mathers LP 2, a project that revisited themes from its predecessor while showcasing his artistic evolution.
The album itself has been so well received by everybody, including, fans right across the world, because in my opinion, listening to it now, it's kind of the perfect combination of the venom and the danger that existed on the first record, but also what you've been through and what you've learned in the last sort of 5 or 6 years too. It's kind of like a combination of the two. Is that fair, do you think? Like the first album that feels like it's slightly grown up, but also is going back to some of those subject matters and dealing with that stuff.
It's grown up and down.
Yeah,
grown
exactly.
down. Yeah, I mean, some of the themes and topics and things like that are revisited on this album. But at the same time, I feel like it's kind of a 2013 version. All my albums, I think, for the most part, pretty much tell where I'm at, on each one at that time period or whatever. So this is kind of like, there's a lot of reflecting and things like that back on everything that was happening during that time, and it's kind of like me reflecting on it and getting to the point where I am now with it.
Selling some scores as well, kind of burying hatchets and dealing with stuff once and for all. Do you feel like, has this album allowed you to do that?
I mean, some stuff, yeah, but for the most part, I just felt like it might be fun to just revisit that, just, the overall vibe of that album, just because it kind of started to go there early on a little bit in the recording process.
So when did that start to happen? When did it feel like, oh, okay, we are going down that road?
I don't know. I mean, I think that I had started making a few records for it, and it just sounded like the tonality of it, the tones of the records kind of were heading towards that way. And once I got figured out what direction it should go in, kind of started gearing everything that way, and a lot of times making an album, I don't always have the direction or a concept early on, you know what I'm saying? Like sometimes it doesn't come till like the middle, towards the end of a record to figure out where I'm actually going with that, and that's just usually just the culmination of songs, and depending on what the vibe is. But sometimes I do songs that are maybe so left field, one or two of them, that it's like, oh shit, where am I gonna put these songs, and now what am I gonna call it, because it's not gonna make sense to go, like, let's say Recovery or whatever.
Yeah.
But with this one, I feel like I kind of got an earlier idea for a concept.
That must have been nice, actually, to be able to sit down and sort of carve it up as it was going and have that end result in mind and piece it together that way.
Yeah, I mean, it was, but it wasn't, in the sense of like, I had to record a lot of songs for it, because I felt like if I'm gonna call it that, I want it to be able to make sense.
Yeah.
Eminem's 8th studio album, the Marshall Mathers LP 2, achieved significant commercial success. In its debut week, the album sold approximately 792,000 copies in the United States, securing the #1 spot on the Billboard 200 chart. This achievement marked Eminem's 7th consecutive #1 album in the United States. The album's lead single, Berserk, produced by Rick Rubin, paid homage to old-school hip-hop and rock, setting the tone for a record that blended nostalgia with contemporary sounds.
I mean, I've always been a fan of Rick, and my manager, Paul, had been talking to him, and Rick had expressed that he had interest in working with me. And when Paul brought it to my attention, I was like super excited, just honored at the fact that he was even thinking about it, you know?
I had met Paul, M's manager, a few years ago, and we always talked about the possibility of getting together to work on something at some point down the road. It just worked out. It was meant to be at this time.
It was very much kind of like the feeling that I got early on with Dre.
Had you met him before? Had you met Rick before?
I had met him.
Right.
Nah, I had never met him. So I was like nervous to meet him, and then, you know, even more nervous to work with him.
I think it's unlike any current hip-hop songs. If you listen to what's going on in hip-hop, this is not what this is. M wanted to do something kind of a throwback to some of the early records that we were making in the old days, and it more reflects that energy of the early days of hip-hop. We were in the studio working on a bunch of different ideas, and this was one of the later ones to come up. It started with a sample, and the sample that we started with ended up not being in the record. The song sort of evolved. So it started one way, it kind of got programmed and written to, and then it changed into a whole different song. And I thought the track was really strong and didn't really know what direction M was going to go in vocally. And then when I heard the vocals, I was pretty excited, because it was not at all what I was expecting. And just the energy in it and the lyrics and the style of it. It's so well done and so smart and so funny. It's just great.
The guy's so laid back that it made it easy, you know. And his vibe in the studio was just like very much like I don't know how to say it. Like, he try whatever. Don't be afraid to try whatever, even if the idea in the beginning is stupid.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of ideas in beginning stages, not mine, of course. Mine are just insane from the moment I think of them. Of
course.
But sometimes ideas, you know, they're not always the greatest.
Yeah.
This song, we ended up using a Billy Squier guitar and hook, and everything else pretty much is programmed. It reminds me of old hip-hop videos, and I think it's really entertaining, and I look forward to see it all cut together and done. But in the shooting stages, the pieces I've seen look really entertaining.
Because, you know, Rick is super, like, talented and mastered, like, every other genre of music as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, the way he dips in and out of just different genres is crazy to me.
Oh,
so,
man. The first time I saw Berserk as well, and I was so happy to see, you know, the way that you came through, and then the video, you know, with the way the colors were so reverse Beastie Boy style. It was fanboy stuff for me, you know, like, you know, to be able to go out there with a beanie on the ad rock thing, and it was cool, man. I loved that. I loved that.
Yeah, thanks.
After the explosive return of Berserk, Eminem followed up with Survival, a high-energy anthem packed with aggressive bars and a battle-ready attitude. Originally debuting alongside Call of Duty Ghosts, the track perfectly captured the intensity of the game while showcasing M's relentless hunger. The album's third single, Rap God, showcased Eminem's rapid-fire delivery and lyrical prowess, earning him a spot in the Guinness World Records for the most words in a hit single.
And spitting Rap God as well, I mean, that puts everything into perspective, I think, for everybody else. I mean, when you wrote that and you got that one down and recorded it...
I didn't write it, I freestyled it.
You freestyled off the top of your head?
Off the dome, one
Absolutely
take.
Ridiculous.
Thanks, man.
I mean, no, the song's ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Thank you.
Now, when you get to perform that live, that must be... I saw at the end, once you finish that, I mean, that's a challenge for anybody. And I mean, at the end of it, you must feel like, wow, I mean, that's a lot of rhymes to get through. What is it, 5 or 6 minutes non-stop?
Yeah, I mean, the other night, I don't think we did the whole song.
Yeah.
We did kind of a deadly medley. No, we
I don't even know how you would, like, cut that up and make a shorter version of that, because it's such a stream of consciousness through the whole track.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't even begin to want to think about trying to do that. Because, yeah, I think that it is that's a good stream of consciousness.
Yes.
Or unconsciousness.
Which is what you were doing before as well, just as we walked in.
Yes.
Little stream of consciousness going on there.
Nice stream of consciousness running down my leg.
You are welcome.
It's all good, man.
Following the success of Recovery in 2010, Eminem took a 3-year hiatus before releasing the Marshall Mathers LP2, during which he focused on refining his craft and addressing personal challenges. The album's fourth single, The Monster, featuring Rihanna, became a commercial success, topping charts worldwide and further solidifying Eminem's return to the forefront of the music industry. Internationally, the album resonated with audiences, debuting at #1 in multiple countries, including the United Kingdom, where it sold over 143,000 copies in its first week. By the end of 2013, the Marshall Mathers LP2 had sold approximately 3.8 million copies worldwide, making it one of the year's best-selling albums. While the Marshall Mathers LP2 revisited themes from its predecessor, it also highlighted Eminem's growth as an artist, blending introspection with his signature lyrical intensity. The album not only honored his roots, but also showcased his ability to evolve and remain relevant in a changing musical landscape. Bad Guy is the opening track from the Marshall Mathers LP2 and serves as a sequel to Eminem's classic song Stan from the Marshall Mathers LP. In this song, the perspective shifts to Matthew Mitchell, the younger brother of Stan, who seeks revenge on Eminem for his brother's death. Like Stan, Bad Guy tells a dark, narrative-driven story, but this time, the roles are reversed. Eminem becomes the victim. The song features a similar storytelling approach, emotional depth, and haunting production, making it a spiritual continuation of Stan, while also reflecting Eminem's growth as an artist.
The songs on that album, too, on this album, that you immediately think of other songs you made in the past. When I think of Stan, when I hear the song Bad Guy, you know, and can you talk about the relation between Stan and Bad Guy?
Making the Bad Guy record, I felt like I want to make sure that I make something that ties in with the Marshall Mathers LP, you know, the first one. And I wanted to make sense that if I'm going to go down this road, this could be, you know, be ready for what's about to happen. You know, so it's kind of like, to me, the song, the way I was thinking when I wrote it was like, what if this, you know, nightmare just happened, that I decided to do this album and everything just started coming back on me. Matthew came back, you know, Stan's little brother, and he came back to kill me. Just all this just started happening. So it was kind of like, Bad Guy to me is more like, technically to me, it's more like an intro to the album.
Yeah.
Like, okay, this is what's about to happen. Here it is.
Here
and
it
then
is.
picking up from the Criminal skit where the Marshall Mathers LP left off. You know, I don't know if anyone caught that, but that's kind of where the continuation starts, because Criminal left off with that.
I remember that. I didn't catch that, though.
I knew that obviously Stan off the first Mathers LP was a big topic. A lot of chatter right around the time of doing the Recovery record that I should do Stan 2, and why doesn't he do Stan 2? And you know, all I kept thinking was, well, Stan's dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, he died in the story. So in the back of my mind, I kind of had an idea of like who could be left from the story.
Yeah.
But you know, I needed to get the right beat and be able to
do this. As soon as it starts as well, man. I mean, did you know immediately that this was the beat for this concept?
Yeah, as soon as I heard the words to the chorus, this beat was I got this beat. This beat was sent to me, and it had those words on it. And sometimes for me, it's like I like making my own choruses and writing my own choruses and things like that. But it's also fun for me to be able to try to take someone else's words and interpret them my own way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, when you hear that chorus, I'm sure initially it's probably written along the lines of, you know, it's a first person scenario, or it's a self-hatred scenario, but to actually tie it into, there's layers to that. You know, being bad is good, I hate to be it, but here I am and I'm back again, and then you got to deal with the story.
Around the time Eminem was recording the Marshall Mathers LP2 in 2012-2013, his love for hip-hop and beat-making was as intense as ever. Despite being a veteran in the game, he remained obsessed with the craft, constantly refining his rhymes, experimenting with flows, and pushing production to new heights. Eminem has always been deeply involved in the creative process, often tweaking beats and obsessing over every detail to make sure his music felt raw, energetic, and authentic.
So to hear you back making beats again on some of the standout beats on the record for me was a real thrill. So, I mean, how was that getting back into the producer's chair and deciding to wear two hats again?
I mean, that was fun. It was fun to be able to just mess around with beats from scratch again. And you know, sometimes, like, I think Recovery was the first time that I ever got really super open to working with a lot of other producers.
Yeah.
You know, that was the most that I had ever done, and you know, aside from working with Dre.
Yeah.
You know, so on that album kind of open those doors a little bit. So that's kind of how early on I started approaching this record or this album. And but sometimes like I may get something in my head, like an idea or the mood of something that I would want, and I'm not always gonna get that by going through, you know, different tracks that other people have made. They don't know what's in my head. You know what I'm saying? So it's also a good way to I think maybe it helps with diversity a little bit too, with the sound and all that. But you know, I would get something in my head and want to be able to lay that idea down from scratch.
I mean, there was a time when the beats you were making were all very kind of minor key and lots of strings and lots of kind of a lot of drama. The beats on here are fun. I mean, they're fat and big and, you know, rap, like inspired by hip hop.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much all I do and all I want to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's fun for me. Like, I'm still passionate about hip hop in every aspect of it. So making beats and producing, you know, is definitely, it's fun for me.
With the Marshall Mathers LP2, he aimed to recapture the essence of his earlier work while showcasing his evolution as an artist, proving that his passion for hip-hop was still burning as fiercely as when he first started.
What is it about rap that you love? I mean, I grew up on hip hop. It informs pretty much every sort of thing I've ever done in my life, pretty much in some form. And what I wondered, you know, being someone who is considered one of the greatest of all time, what is it about rap, the art form, if you can even trace it back to when you first discovered it, to how you feel about it now on one of your most rap-heavy records? And, you know, just
It's a lot of rap.
a lot of rapping on there, a lot of words. Yeah. What is it about it that you love, if you can put it into words?
I don't know. I love the fact that you can, I love the expression of it. The fact that you can, you know, just, I don't know. I love I love beats and rhymes, and I love the fact that you can express yourself in a rhyme and lay it down, and it can be therapeutic, and you've got it off your chest, and then you could go on to the next thing. I don't know. There's so much shit that I love about rap. You know, I'm in it for like I love to watch what's going on in the game and keep my finger on the pulse of that. You know, and it's exciting to watch as a fan for me too. You know, just being a fan of hip hop and watching as it, you know, the evolution of it, and you know, how it moves from each year to year, and you know what I'm saying, the direction. And
As of March 2017, the Recording Industry Association of America, RIAA, certified the album as quadruple platinum. The Marshall Mathers LP2 was the second best-selling album of 2013, with 3.8 million copies sold worldwide. As with much of Eminem's work, the Marshall Mathers LP2 continues to inspire discussion and analysis, underscoring his enduring influence in the world of hip-hop.
Are you sort of relieved that you can be that now? You can be, you know, a contender for the world's greatest rapper along with, you know, a selection of your peers, and it can be a really amazing rap record, and to a certain extent, I hope it's the right way, because I know you're still incredibly popular, number one in 80 plus countries and huge, but the pop star's kind of dead. You know, in the sense of what people expect from you these days, isn't it? You don't have to be that guy anymore. You can just be a rapper and make rap records if you want. Is that a relief?
well, yeah, I think so. It's one of them things, like, as far as like being a pop star or whatever, like I never intended to be any of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, all I ever wanted to do was get respect from, you know, my peers and other rappers, and all the other stuff that came with it, I was just, you know, confusing to me. It was, I don't know. Like I don't feel like I ever set out to make a pop song or a song that was gonna be some kind of crossover song or whatever. Is that for me?
Yeah, if you want.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
And then boom, you did. And it didn't stop for years.
Well, boom, it happened, but at the same time, like, I never wanted to. When things did keep happening and certain things kept hitting the radio and things like that, I mean, I don't think I'm stupid. I'm not stupid. Like I know when a song has a certain particular sound and sounds like, well, maybe this could possibly be a radio record, or when I'm going, fuck shit, you know what I'm saying? And I know this will never go to radio. But at the same time, if a song starts heading that way, because a lot of times I may even think certain things when I'm writing it, like maybe what person this might connect with, you know what I'm saying? Like, and who I might connect with this song. But I never, in making any song I've ever made, I never wanted to compromise lyrical integrity, you know? And I always wanted to make sure that if I was rapping on a beat that had some kind of appeal to it and was catchy, that I was at least doing my job as an MC. I want this attention for this music, but then I want to be able to go in public and I want to be able to eat a fucking sandwich. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And be left alone. So it was like, man, if I could, because I've never been an attention seeker, and that seems like probably a hell of a career choice, you know, but I don't like like that's not why I do it, is just to get attention. Like I don't like to go in public and walk around and be like, here I am. You know what I mean? Like I don't, it's not what I want. I just wanted, my dream was for like, man, to be able to one day, like, hear rappers that I looked up to on the radio and be like, yo, what if Jay-Z, whoever, what if they heard of me? What if they thought I was dope? You know what I'm saying? Like, that was where my mentality always was with it. So when it all went crazy, it was really hard to wrap my head around, you know?
Eminem and Kendrick Lamar teamed up for Love Game on the Marshall Mathers LP2, delivering a quirky offbeat track that blends humor, wordplay, and a twisted take on relationships. Unlike the darker, more aggressive tone of much of the album, Love Game features a playful yet intricate back and forth between the two MCs, showcasing their lyrical prowess and storytelling abilities.
I want to talk about Love Game with Kendrick, because you guys are really spurring each other on. He's the only guest on the record. You know, you've never been particularly...
He's the only rapper guest.
Yes, that's right, I should say. Yes. Yeah, the only rapper on that record. I mean, he's phenomenal, you know, we all in agreement with that. We all know how amazing he is. You know, working with him on that song and just bouncing off him. Did you guys do your rhymes separately in different parts of the country, or did you do it at the same time, or how did that record come together?
It was, the way that it was put together was kind of last minute, because I had did so many records for this album and was recording so fast. It was almost like I would record a record, maybe 2 a week, and then kind of put them aside and then record 2 more and just kept going. And by the time it was all said and done and I was picking the songs out, you know, I'd go through them with Paul and we'd sit there and, you know, bounce ideas back and forth. What do you think about this song? I like this song, but this is what I don't like about this song. So we would kind of do that. By the time it got to the later stages of it, I had a lot of songs that I was trying to fit on the record, you know, and trying to make it cohesive and trying to make it all one thought with the, you know, with that whole framework of what I'm working within those parameters or whatever. But Kendrick is incredible as he is. He's also on the same label. He's in our camp, you know what I mean? So it only made sense and it felt right. So he came to the studio in Detroit.
That's cool. So many people phone them in now, send them via email. You know what I mean? Here's a beat. Send me 16 bars. Send me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I laid a verse, and I kind of was showing him where it was going. And
was anyone filming this, by the way, when this was going on? I mean, is anyone? No?
Nah.
Man, wow.
Nah, Kendrick me and him had a conversation about the element of surprise.
Right.
You know, and we had talked about, like, he shouldn't even tell anybody that he, you know what I'm saying? Like, I won't say nothing, he won't say anything, and he gets it, you know, he really does, man.
So you've done a verse, and you kind of talking through with them, so just get back into that moment, because I want to hear how that came.
Well, I laid a verse, played it for him when he came to Detroit, and I said, this is kind of the direction it's going, and I had other things to play him. I said, I had an idea for a hook, but I was thinking it might be interesting, like I'm doing a lot of hooks on my record, you know, it might be interesting to have you do a hook, because he's great at melody too. So he laid the hook, and then he laid like 2 different hooks, I think, and after that, I don't know if I'm not sure if, to this day, I'm not sure if he understood that I always wanted him to rap on it. Because he laid 2 hooks and then he kind of looked like, is that it? You know?
Yeah, that's it.
The only rapper on the album won't rap. So, or the only other rapper, sorry. So I was like, I can't remember exactly what I said. I was like, something like, yo, Sid, you wanna lay a verse? And he was like, oh, like I think he looked surprised. I think that he was just not sure.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it was getting late. I ended up going home. He laid something. I don't think I could even come back the next day. That's when it actually started getting busy too with everything else. I think it took me a couple days to be able to get back to the studio to listen to what he did. And then we had to go somewhere for a couple of days. I don't remember where we ended up going, but it took me a minute to be able to get back to him. I told him he killed it, and then
you laid down your other verse after that one as well, so it was a classic kind of like bouncing off each other.
So to try to, because I felt like he's doing the hooks too, you know, so one verse ain't gonna make sense. Maybe I could try to tie it all together and cap it off to try to make it, you know, I don't think it would have been a complete thought if the record would have ended there.
Yeah.
But
it's a wicked record. I mean, it's kind of it's a dream combination, isn't it? You know, Rick Rubin, you and Kendrick Lamar on the same record. It's like that's never happened before.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the other thing too. Was I felt like what was interesting about that beat to me, and one of the reasons that I wanted to hear Kendrick on it is because I don't think that the style that the beat was in and where the samples from and all that. To me, the feel of that record is so different from what maybe a lot of people would expect us to do. So that was one of the things that attracted me to that record when Rick sent the beat to me.
Kendrick Lamar's legendary Control verse came from Big Sean's 2013 track Control, which also featured Jay Electronica. Kendrick's verse sent shockwaves through hip-hop. He called out several rappers by name, including J. Cole, Drake, and Big Sean, declaring himself the King of New York and challenging his peers to step up their game. The verse was widely praised for its competitive spirit and cemented Kendrick's status as one of the era's top MCs. This is what Eminem had to say about Kendrick's Control verse.
One of the highly anticipated collaborations was with Kendrick. You know, Kendrick let that Control verse go, and lots of people, he kind of lit a fire in the lyrics again for a lot of people. Did you feel any fun-loving competition, or did it make you feel like you had to come any extra harder for this Kendrick track, knowing that what he did to other people on their other song more recently?
First of all, I just want to say this. I love what Kendrick is doing.
Right.
And he's making it, he's continuing the tradition of just making rap exciting.
Right.
You know? And what he did with the Control verse is incredible, but we had actually did that song before he did that verse.
Oh, okay.
You know, I just loved what he did on his album.
Right.
And I felt like, man, he's an Aftermath artist too, you know, and it just felt like it was something that we should do.
Right.
Overcoming his near-fatal overdose in 2007, M fought his way back, relearning how to write and perform without substances. In this era, he opened up about the struggles of staying creative while sober, the pressure of living up to his past, and how performing on stage felt completely different. This was a defining moment in his career, proof that he could still dominate the rap game without relying on drugs.
You have done something which very few people have done, man. You've actually been in the center of the world, in the center of that storm, and you've emerged out of it. You popped out the other side of it. I mean, Elvis didn't do that. You know, Michael Jackson didn't do that. Whitney Houston, people who have been in the public eye to that extent. Unfortunately, the list, and for various reasons, I'm sure personal to them, is too long. I didn't make it through. You have, and what does the world look like to you when you come out the other side of that? And you're 5 years sober, and you're looking back on that chaos for some perspective.
I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely thankful. You know what I mean? Like I know that I could have certainly took another path and
Gone
went
that way, yeah.
Yeah, I could have went another direction, but I don't know. I mean, I think that I feel like I'm probably able to see it. Now I'm able to be more focused now than I've ever been. But I'm I'm also able to I guess put it in perspective. The problem is I can't put a lot in perspective because there's a lot that's,
Gone.
yeah. It's a lot that I don't remember, and maybe that's cool too. You know what I'm saying?
Probably a good thing.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. I know that there's so many addicts in this world, and people who have problems like that don't make it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thankful for that. But I think that's one thing that really helps me through and just it keeps me pushing forward is the music and is the passion for that and
Do you get more nervous before shows now you're sober? Is it a different experience before you go on than you would even remember when you were in the height of all that?
I mean, I definitely think I did. First relearning how to do that shit again. Was it's a lot, and I don't think on the Relapse record, that whole album run, I don't think that it was something that I jumped right back into.
Yeah.
It was like smaller shows here and there. Let me get my feet wet again, and get my footing back. And it took a minute, but I think that just the more you do it, it just starts to become second nature.
Do you get? I mean, again, it seems like a strange question, but do you get a real thrill out of standing in front of a live crowd and performing? Because I know that probably when you were going through various issues with substances and stuff, it's hard. You feel detached. That's why people do that. But now you're sober when you're standing in front of 60, 70,000 people.
Now I can look out and I can see the crowd and I can actually see the people and I can see what people look like. So that's
just insane to think that you couldn't even comprehend that when you were.
I mean, I just think that it was just one of those things. I was so trapped in my own head.
Yeah.
I often get trapped in my own head, still to this day. But I think
everybody does.
Absolutely. So I think that back then it was definitely like it was so big in my head, and it was one of those things that it was like, man, let me take this and this and drink this or whatever and get through it, as opposed to going out there and actually, being able to see the people and connect with the crowd and
Eminem has never shied away from airing out his personal struggles in his music, and for years his relationship with his mother, Debbie Mathers, was a recurring theme filled with anger and resentment. But in Headlights, a heartfelt track from the Marshall Mathers LP2, M takes a different approach, one of reflection, regret, and ultimately, forgiveness. In this emotional letter to his mother, he acknowledges the pain on both sides, apologizing for the harsh words of the past and expressing gratitude despite their troubled history. This song marked a rare moment of vulnerability, showing a side of Eminem the world had hardly seen before.
Can we talk about Headlights? I mean, I know obviously the subject has always been sensitive for you and you've always said what you need to say on record and I've always tried to respect that. But the reason I want to bring that song up is because I love it. I think it's one of the most kind of emotional and brilliant things I think you've ever recorded on record. And I just want to talk more about the mood of how that record came together and I suppose how difficult it was for you to get that out of your system and how long you've been preparing to do so.
Well, it was one of those things that I don't know if I was mentally preparing for any of that before the idea was given to me to even me and Nate have a mutual friend, Emil, who produced the track.
Yeah.
And he had brought up, he did a lot of work on the Fun record, Emil did. And he had brought it up to me, like, what do you think about working with Nate? And Nate is dope. Like, the way he writes and the way his cadences and his voice and the way
he's a great writer.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
So, I was open to the idea. Emil sent me a couple of sketches, like early on sketches of it. And I had a couple of things that we bounced some ideas of like what to, like certain little changes to make here and there. And then pretty much went from there. Once that ended up getting to the place where it was at, then I wrote the rhyme to it, and that's pretty much it.
You proud of that one? Of that song?
I mean, I'm proud of every record on here.
The reason I know that's an obvious thing to ask, but it's you know, I mean, it's an amazing listen, man. I mean, you got to remember that your fans have been on this journey with you through your honesty. You know, your fans have experienced what you've experienced, and your relationships with people in your family or friends or whatever through your records.
Yeah.
So to come full circle on that song is kind of important to them as well, or to us, to hear that in a weird way. It sounds strange, doesn't it? You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those chapters. It was one of those things that was, you know, bothered me for a little bit. It was one of those things I needed to get off my chest. So, you know, I don't have anything else to really elaborate or expand on that record other than everything that I needed to say. I put on that record and I kind of left it there. I always write, you know, and I probably always will. I don't know at what point, you know, whatever point I decide, like, I'm gonna put the mic down or whatever happens with that, I do feel like I always want something to do with the music. So whether it's producing or whatever, you know, ends up happening, I think that I just want something to do with it, you know.